America's own founding fathers knew the threat of corruption all too well, warning of the dangers that it posed to democratic governance. Corruption is a social danger because it feeds organized crime. It destroys nation states. It imperils opportunities, particularly for women and girls. It facilitates environmental degradation, contributes to human trafficking, and undermines whole communities. It destroys the future. Corruption is a radicalizer because it destroys faith in legitimate authority. It opens up a vacuum which allows the predators to move in. And no one knows that better than the violent extremist groups who regularly use corruption as a recruitment tool. Corruption is an opportunity destroyer because it discourages honest and accountable investment. It makes businesses more expensive to operate. It drives up the cost of public services for local taxpayers, and it turns a nation's entire budget into a feeding trough for the privileged few. But today, corruption has grown at an alarming pace and threatens global growth, global stability, and indeed the global future. The U.S. Department of Justice has successfully returned $143 million since 2004 and is litigating now more than $1 billion worth of stolen assets. The fact is, there is nothing, absolutely nothing more demoralizing, more destructive, more disempowering to any citizen than the belief that the system is rigged against them and that people in positions of power are, to use a diplomatic term of art, crooks who are stealing the future of their own people. And when Prime Minister Abadi, who I met with yesterday, and we talked about the reform effort in Iraq, when he took office in Iraq over a year ago, he found the government payroll weighted down with 50,000 soldiers who didn't even exist. That meant $380 million of dishonest public officials that got that money instead of it going to build the kind of inclusive and capable security forces that Iraq desperately needed. When Nigeria's President Buhari took office last spring, he inherited a military that was underpaid, underfed, and unable to protect the Nigerian people from Boko Haram. And one reason is that much of the military budget was finding its way into the pockets of the generals. And just this week, we saw reports that more than 50 people in Nigeria, including former government officials, stole $9 billion from the Treasury. And by the way, depositing their ill-gotten gains in ostensibly legitimate financial institutions around the world. All told, corruption costs the global economy, global GDP, more than $1 trillion a year, and costs the global economy on an international basis about $2.6 trillion. Imagine the difference that would make to all those kids under the age of 30, 60% in some countries, yearning for jobs and opportunity, for electricity, for education. This corruption complicates, I assure you, every single security, diplomatic, and social priority of the government of the United States and other governments who are trying to help countries in the world. And this in and of itself creates tension, instability, and a perfect playing field for predators. The bottom line is that it is everybody's responsibility to condemn and expose corruption, to hold perpetrators accountable.
Nakita mo na ba ang mga bagay na dapat mong makita? Nagawa mo na ba ang mga bagay na dapat mong ginawa? Kalagan ng tali sa paa, imulat ng iyong mga mata. Kay sarap ng buhay, lalo na't alam mo kung saan papunta.